Is Marcus here, and I don't have my guest with me. I had a guest lined up, but they backed out. So it's just me today talking about recurring thoughts, memories, and alcohol recovery tips. If everything looks okay, sounds okay, let me know by typing something in the box. And we're going to get started here in just a few seconds. We got Megan here. Megan, good to see you. Megan says she is on 67 days sober. That is a huge milestone. Awesome. Great job. Good stuff. I'm going to move this so we don't get too many glares here. I run another business out of here, and we have all kinds of things that we need to have for that. So let's see if we can get that out of the way. That should be better. All right, cool. So today what we're going to do is we're talking about getting rid of disturbing thoughts, getting rid of disturbing emotions, getting rid of all kinds of things that make us stuck, right? We get stuck. We get in these states of mind where maybe we wake up and we're like, I don't feel like doing anything. Or maybe you wake up and you're like, I can't stop thinking about this one thing. Or I keep ruminating on this one thing, or whatever it is. And if you guys can hear me okay, please let me know. I got an orange bar on the studio tab, so I'm not sure if we're coming through clear. Just let me know by typing something in the box. That would be very helpful. And let's see, maybe if I reload this, I think that'll help. Should get a green bar there. See, here I am on an alcohol channel talking about bars. But we're talking about bars on the internet, how everything works, not the actual bars that would get us in trouble. All right, so if you can, type in the comments where you're listening from, who you are, and if you're sober, how many days sober, or if you're just starting out, say, hey, I'm just starting out, and we're going to talk about this issue here today. We're going to go through and kind of hash it out. I'm going to talk about my issues that I've had with thoughts that recur, thoughts that keep ruminating, and, how I get through those, how I got through them sober, how I struggle with them, and everything like that, okay? Also, if you can, type in what your thoughts are on ruminating thoughts, on disturbing thoughts that come up over and over. Because I know a lot of times we look at our minds as if they're running the show. And I got to tell you that the mind is a very, very good servant, but it's a terrible master, right? If you take every thought that you have seriously, as there's a Bible verse out there that says, take every thought captive. And a lot of people who read the Bible get obsessed with that verse, and they start having wars in their brain, and they look at it like a firing squad in there where you're like, okay, there's this thought, and I got to fight it, and I got to put this thought in. That, I have found, is not the best way to go about it. What I've found is the best way to go about these thoughts that come up over and over is to simply relax and let them be. Because your thoughts are accumulated from all of the input that goes into you. So like right here, I got a keyboard that goes into my computer. Right? This keyboard puts data into the computer. I also have a mouse that puts data into the computer. I also have a camera. I got audio. I got internet stuff. I got whatever programs I downloaded. I got whatever data's coming in. And so what happens with my computer is it's getting all this data from all these places, and it's getting it at a rapid pace. And so all these things are coming in. All this stuff is coming into my mind or into my computer at one time, and my computer's like, okay, well, let's try to deal with this. Let's try to deal with that. Let's try to deal with this. And I want you to look at it because your mind is the same way. All throughout our day, we are getting tons and tons of stimuluses, tons and tons of things coming into our mind. Now, in addition to all that stuff that's coming into our mind, we also have past stuff, and we have past things that may have happened to us, and we have people that are traumatized and people who have gone through difficult situations. And what happens when we go through a difficult situation is we look at it and we don't want to go through that again. Right? When something in your life is unpleasant, when something in your life is difficult to deal with, or something in your life may have hurt you, what happens is we get to a place where our mind and our body are like, I don't want that to happen again, right? I don't want that to happen again. And so we go in protection mode. And the protection mode says, well, you better think about this a lot because if this happens again, you're going to be hurt. And so what happens is our brain develops a pattern of thinking of the situation over and over, right? So we're thinking of the situation over and over, and we're looking at it, and we're like, okay, well, maybe I was abused as a kid, or maybe I had this issue, or maybe I always got yelled at, or whatever it was. And so your brain goes through, and in addition to all this stimulus that's coming in from the keyboard, the whatever, the emotions, the thoughts, the ruminating, in addition to all the daily stuff, you also are dealing with past issues where your brain is saying, I need to think about this. I need to think about this because if I don't think about it, something bad is going to happen. If I don't constantly obsess about people who harmed me, then they're just going to keep harming me, right? Does this make sense to everyone? Type it in the box, and I'm going to make your comments a little bit bigger. I apologize. I had a person who was going to help out, but they canceled last minute, so it's just me today. And I've been doing a lot of webinars lately, so I'm kind of tired here. So cool. Okay, so Baby Jinx says, I constantly am thinking about the horrible things my narcissistic mother has done and continues to do to sabotage my life. Well, that's going to be normal. A lot of times you have something in life where you have a person that might be toxic, okay? Now, you have that person that's toxic, and for you, since it's your mother, it's probably someone you grew up with, right? Usually that's how it works. Sometimes not, but usually it is. And what happened is your brain developed a pattern of thinking about things to protect yourself, right? So you're like, if I think about this, if I'm always on guard, like, what are they going to do next? What's going to happen here? For me, I had someone in my life where I was always on guard, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, so I need to think about this. It needs to be at the forefront of my mind so that it doesn't happen again. And so I went through life thinking about these things a lot. And then when I got into my 20s and my early 30s, I started looking at it like, well, wait a minute. Why am I still worried about this? I'm an adult now. I don't, like, that person's 3,000 miles away from me. I don't need to think about this anymore. And in addition, I have the upper hand now, right? Because now, as an adult, I'm like, I call the shots, buddy. You're not in a parental role anymore. We don't have to deal with it that way, and you can cut things off. So what happens is, like with Baby Jinx, she says she's thinking about the horrible things. What I want you to look at is maybe look at what they're doing for you and also why you have them. Because chances are they're either doing something for you. Maybe they're going through and maybe you feel better about it. Like, hey, if I hate this person enough or if I bitch about it enough to someone else, I'm going to feel better. Okay? Sometimes it works that way. Sometimes the opposite of what we really need is what feels good, right? Like when you're drinking and when you're an alcoholic, the opposite of what feels good is what you need, right? I say, you need to stop drinking. And you're like, but that feels good when I'm anxious and it takes it away. And when I need to focus or I got ruminating thoughts, I can drink and they're not as big anymore. Okay, but what's funny is the opposite is what you need, because to heal, we need to get of a sober mind, and we need to look at it and say, I don't need these thoughts anymore. I don't need to deal with this anymore. This is not something that needs to be in the forefront of my mind, right? Does this make sense to everyone? Let me know if it makes sense. Type it in the box, and we'll continue on. One of the things I learned late in my life, as it is now, I hope this isn't late in my life. I hope I got a lot of years left, right? But one of the things that I learned later in my life, probably in my mid-30s, is that the best thing you can do in life when it comes to other people, because a lot of the problems that we have as alcoholics, as people who struggle with depression or addiction or whatever, is ruminating thoughts and relationships, right? A lot of it. Like, I want you to look at the majority of the things that you struggle with, and I guarantee, like, if you put it in a column and you're like, okay, I struggle financially, I struggle maritally, I struggle with my boyfriend or girlfriend, I struggle with this, right? If you look at it, I want you to take and kind of mentally make a column of the things that you struggle with that have nothing to do with other people, right? So, like, your alcoholism, I mean, in terms of you helping it, it has nothing to do with anyone else, right? So that part, we look at it, we're like, okay, that doesn't really have to do with it. But the things that I'm ruminating on, the things that I think are causing me to drink, oftentimes they're tied to relationships, right? So like Jinx says, issue with the mom. other people, issue with spouses, other people, issue with kids, issue with this, issue with that. A lot of times it has to do with relationships. And one of the things that I learned is that the best thing we can do in life is ask for another person's cooperation. Now, I want you to look at that, because when you say, I'm dealing with a mother who has all these issues or whatever, okay, and you say, I'm dealing with the thoughts of this, okay, this is very freeing if you get it, if it clicks. And what happens is you have this person that you're obsessing about. You have this person who does these things. Now, are the things that person does bad, good, and different? We don't know. That part's irrelevant. But we have that person, and we're ruminating on that. And you got to look at it and say, the best thing I can do in life with other people, as relating to other people, is ask for their cooperation. Okay, so you got your mom, you got your dad, whoever it is that is bugging the hell out of you, whoever it is that you want to change. Because if we have a relationship that we're not happy with, that we're thinking about, that's in the constant forefront of our mind, inadvertently in the back of our head, maybe not consciously, we're looking at that and saying, I need to change this person. If only they weren't like this. If only they would do this. If only that person wasn't this way, right? So inadvertently, we want to change these people. Now, again, remember the serenity prayer. Let me accept the things I cannot change. Okay, the things you cannot change other people. So now that I look at that and I say, well, I can't change them. No amount of thoughts, no amount of effort, no amount of talking to, no amount of money, no amount of counseling is going to make me change someone else. Now, once you look at that, you sit back and you say, okay, well, now I got my mom and I got all these thoughts and I got this stuff to deal with, but I can't change her, so then I need to make a decision. And I make that decision saying, okay, what do I want to do now? Well, now I need to look at it and say, well, how much do I want this person in my life? Because I know, hey, whatever I do, it's not my job to change them. I can't change them. They're the way they are, right? And then you accept that. And you say, okay, good, I accept that. Now what's my part going to be? For me, years ago, I had ruminating thoughts when I drank. And these ruminating thoughts were on certain topics. It would be a business topic. Maybe someone in work pissed me off. Maybe it was something with trauma in my past related to parental figures. And I would ruminate on these really bad when I drank. I mean, like wallowing in it, crying profusely, crazy ruminating on it. And when I got sober, I realized I can't change people. All I could do is ask cooperation. And the cooperation was, hey, you know what? Admit what you did and stop being a dick. Very simple. And they were like, well, I don't think I'm being a dick. And I don't think I did anything. And I'm like, good. That's fine. I can't change you. I can't change your thoughts. But now that I know where you're at, I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be far away. Right? So we look at that, and we're like, okay, we got to take charge of our part in other relationships. We got to take charge, and we got to say, if I'm ruminating on this, it's probably inadvertently because it either does something for me, makes me feel better. Right? We could be sitting there and saying, well, my mom's a narcissist and I hate the way she is and I can't stand this, or this guy's like that, or this guy's like that. And we ruminate on it. And inadvertently, once we get really honest with ourselves, what we're doing subconsciously is saying, well, I'm better than mom. Mom really sucks. I'm really good because I'm not a narcissist. She did that shitty thing. I would never do that shitty thing. Right? And so what you're doing is you're using it as a way to feel better about yourself, right? And this is kind of a difficult pill to swallow, but I think you can if you look at it and you say, hey, look, sometimes these thoughts are doing something we don't know, right? And it's the whole thing that I always say, do you want to feel better about something or do you want to be better about something, right? Do you want to feel better or do you want to be better? Because I'm guessing that even though those thoughts might do something for you, they're actually destructive. Right? They're actually harming you. And if we get past it and we look at it, we're like, okay, now I can make a change. Now I can make a difference, right? Does that make sense to everyone? Put your comments in the box, because I don't have Terry here to tell me if I'm sounding like a crazy person or not, which I probably do sound like a crazy person, but that's all right. So let me know. You guys can be my barometer of insanity here. Okay, Ivy says, I'm finally becoming to a point where I want to take this sobriety thing seriously. I'm glad for this channel. Well, great. Take it seriously, because it is serious. This is something that myself, Terry, we both almost ended our lives by alcohol. And the funny thing about alcohol is you are damaging your own life by your own hand. Right? We screw up our own life by our own hand because it feels better at the time, because right now we might not have all the tools to deal with life as life comes at us. And unfortunately, I don't know how it is in other countries, but here in America, they don't have that class of here's how to live life. They don't have that class of here's how to manage your brain. Here's how thoughts work. Here's how neuroscience works, right? They don't teach you this stuff. They don't go through and look at it and say, hey, this is how you do it. Right? They don't tell you how to deal with difficult parents or difficult people in your life. They don't tell you this stuff. And inadvertently what happens is we're left to try to figure it out. And unfortunately, we're left to figure it out going off of feelings. Right? And I want to let you know that feelings are just a fire alarm for what's going on in your life. Right? It's not something that you need to ruminate on. It's not something you need to obsess over. And you can dig deep, and you could look at where these things come from. You could say, well, where does this come from? Maybe, you're looking at something and you're like, well, I feel really sad. Maybe it's just jealousy. Or I feel mad. Maybe you're just sad. Or maybe you feel depressed. Maybe you need to make a change in your life. Right? These feelings that we have are like a fire alarm saying something needs to be different. Something needs to happen. Ralphie says, I've been sober for 2 years, but people still question my sobriety. It can be a difficult thing if you allow the opinions of others to dictate how you feel. Right? I learned a very tough lesson because I have a business where I'm kind of, people know who I am. They look at my channel and they kind of recognize you. Not like crazy, but, some people. And they have opinions. And some people have all kinds of opinions of what I do. A lot of people have opinions about this channel where they're like, Marcus, you're this. And sometimes they could be really mean. And I could take those to heart, and I could be like, well, that guy doesn't think this. And I've had people on this channel, they come out, and they're like, Marcus isn't really sober. A sober person wouldn't say that. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't drink, so whatever you define, that's what I do. But you got to look at it, and you got to say, I am responsible for what I do, and I'm responsible for my own pats on the back. Right? I'm responsible to be proud of myself for getting sober. No one else's. And once you learn this, you're kind of free. And you're like, okay, there it is, right? And again, we look at it because so many times in life, we are looking at relationships. And we either put blame or we ruminate on thoughts because of relationships. And I guarantee you're probably not ruminating thoughts that have nothing to do with a relationship. Okay. Sherry says, I relapsed last December right before Christmas and got another DUI. I hadn't had a DUI in 8 years. Now I'm going through this again. The stress has caused me to be a chronic relapser now. Every day I'm trying to get a grip on it. I have a horrible past with this disease, multiple DUIs, public intoxication, treatment, etc. Well, I would really look at what alcohol is doing for you, right? So you're looking at it, and Sherry's over here. And Sherry's like, okay, I got bad shit. Bad shit. Okay? And she's like, all this bad shit I have. I got DUI. I got public intoxication. I got probably depression. You got treatment. You got multiple rehabs if you've been to multiple rehabs. That says rehabs, right? You got this. You probably got relationship issues. You probably got financial issues. You got all this, right? And what we need to do is say, okay, well, I got all this shit. And your mind goes, oh my God, I got all this shit. What the hell am I going to do? Well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to drink, right? Drink. This is going to make me feel better. But what the hell caused all this in the first place? Right? We look at it and we never put the blame. For some reason, as alcoholics, we don't blame the fucking alcohol. But we need to. we got to look at it and say, this is what caused this. So if I'm drinking to get rid of this, turn the page because I'm going to add more of it. Right? Does that make sense to everyone? The very thing that you think is helping you is the very thing keeping you stuck. The very thing you think takes those thoughts away and the anxiety away is the very thing that's making your anxiety off the charts and making those thoughts stick. Because here's the deal. Your brain is going to get used to the feeling of alcohol. Okay? And I'm not a doctor. If you guys are dealing with detox and stuff, see a doctor. I'm just a guy who got sober. Take my words with a grain of salt. You should probably never listen to anything I say anyway. But at any rate, with that said, we never really blame it, right? These things get worse. We ruminate on them. We struggle with them. And we don't realize that it's the same thing that is causing them. And so if you want more of it, you're going to get in the cycle. And that's why we get in the cycle. We're like, okay, drink. I got shit. I'm going to drink. Oh, now I got more shit. I better drink. And I got more shit. I better drink. And pretty soon you're like, why am I doing 18 months at the jail? Well, because you kept the cycle up. Why am I going insane? Why do I want to end my life? Because you kept the cycle. Now, what you got to do is you got to see outside the cycle. You got to back up, and you got to get your mind clear. She says, I was sober a couple weeks. Great. A couple weeks is fine. But your mind's not going to get clear and out of it until you're sober for 90 days or a year. You got to get out of it. You got to get past it. You got to focus on it and not drop lighters, right? It's kind of like this. There's one of my sober letters where I go through and I talk about a boat, okay? So I got this boat here, and there's this boat. We're going to try to draw a boat. It's got a nice sail. There we go. Good job. I get an A, right? And we got this boat, and there's all these waves, and these waves are huge, and the boat is just tossing to and fro, right? And the boat's going crazy, and the people on the boat are sick. They're throwing up. They think they're going to die. They're like, what the hell? This is insane, right? How are we going to get out of this? Now, what happens is these people are in the situation, okay? If I was a weatherman and I looked at it and I'm like, okay, well, there's a cloud over you, but, 100 yards away, you're going to be fine, okay? If I was able to give you that information and say, hey, you know what? 100 yards away, you're going to be fine. You'd be able to withstand the throwing up and the sick and the feeling like crap because 100 yards away, things are going to be fine. Now, when you get sober and when you get out of the cycle of alcoholism, right, what happens is your brain starts to return to normal and you start to be up here looking down on your life. And instead of saying, oh shit, I lost my job, it's the end of the world, you could say, well, I'm going to be okay. You can get unemployment. I can probably find another job. Life's going to be okay. You'll probably be all right, okay? If you're drinking or if your mind is struggling, okay, and you're like, okay, well, how do we do this, right? How do we get out of this? I got DUIs. I got all this stuff. You say, well, let's make a list. Let's do what we got to do, okay? Hey, what's the worst? Like a DUI, you get 9 months, a year probation. I don't know. Some people get a slap on the hand, which I think it should be more than that because drink driving is a serious thing. Should never screw with it. I am deeply ashamed of all the times I ever did that. So yeah, but I mean, what's the worst? A year of your life? You could do anything for a year. You could do anything for a year, right? So it's okay, I could withstand this because I know life's going to get better around the corner. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, cool. THC says he is 11 days sober. Awesome. We got Leslie here. I think Leslie's new. I don't think I've seen you before. So good to see you here. Okay, let's see what we got. We got a lot of comments coming in here. Okay, Baby Jinx says I think she's commenting to... Okay, we got a lot of questions. I feel like if I keep thinking about the things that I can't make sense of that cause me deep pain, I will somehow make sense of it and find peace. Okay, good. So that's what it's doing for you, right? So we look at that and we're like, if I keep thinking about this, all of a sudden it'll make sense. Okay, but let me tell you a secret. On yours, sometimes people don't make sense. Sometimes in life, you need to get comfortable with the uncertainty of I don't know. You need to get comfortable with the uncertainty and say, I don't know why that person's like that. But it's my job to say, I'm going to be safe, or I need to be away from them, or I'm going to limit contact with them. Right? It's up to you to say which route you want to go if that's happening. Now, do we need to make sense? I had a thought that I ruminated on quite a bit, actually several thoughts, about a certain person, and I ruminated like crazy, and it made me feel like crap. I ruminated, wouldn't go away. When I got sober, I realized that I didn't need to understand why the person did what they did. Very important. I don't need to understand why the person is the way they are. I just need to understand that the behavior is something I don't want to tolerate. And so looking at that, I think a lot of times we make excuses, like with alcoholism. How many of you guys, and I want everyone to be honest here, how many of you guys have gone through and you thought, if I could only understand my alcoholism, if I could understand why I'm an alcoholic, then I'd be able to get sober, right? How many of you guys thought that way? Type that in the box if you thought that way. I know I did. I thought, hey, this would make life way better if this happened, right? So is that the truth, though? Did that really help? Did I suddenly be like, okay, I'm an alcoholic because of this. I'm an alcoholic because of that. It's because of this. Okay, now I'm healed. It didn't work that way. Understanding actually only made it worse, okay? The fact of the matter is we don't know why some people are the way they are. We don't know why some relationships are the way they are. And it's not up to us to figure it out. And maybe we never will. And that's the part of life that has to do with dealing with the uncertainty. I learned in sobriety that some things in life are uncertain. Some things we don't know. Some people become alcoholics because they drink enough. Might not be because of past issues. Some people are assholes because whatever, they're just assholes, right? And we have to look at that and say, what are we going to do? Do we need to figure it out? Because, again, figuring it out is kind of along the same strain of thought of, I can change them. Well, if I could figure it out, maybe it'll make sense to me and I can help them. Okay, well, you could probably help them. Maybe the best thing for you to help them is to back off. To say, wait, I need to take a break. And if they don't accept that, then, hey, the best you can do in life is ask cooperation. If they don't cooperate, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. If you want to cooperate, you can. Or you can't. It's kind of like that friend you have in high school that asks everyone what they want to do, but never ends up making any plans. Right? They have this friend and they're like, I'm going to ask everyone what they want to do, but I'm never going to make any plans because my life is based on other people's responses rather than basing my life on what I want. Okay, does that make sense? And it's time for us to take charge of our life and say, I'm going to do this. You want to come along? Great. You don't? Great. Either way, it does. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to be sober. I'm going to be sober, and I'm not going to think about this anymore. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. Megan says, my ruminating thoughts are about my ex. I feel like I have obsessive thoughts thinking about every little thing I did wrong and mad at myself. It's been a year and a half, and he's with someone else. Okay, so your ruminating thoughts are about what you did or didn't do and kind of looking at like everything. And I've been there, where you go with someone and you're like, what did I say? What did I do? Did I handle this right? How did I look at them? Was I too forthcoming? Was I not enough forthcoming? You know, and you look at these things, and what we have to do is we have to get comfortable with ourselves. We have to say, I'm okay in this situation. As long as I don't drink, I'm probably okay. As long as I don't have like a major issue where I want to do bad things, I'm usually okay, right? And with Megan, it's like, welcome to the land of OCD, right? Alcoholism and OCD are like second cousins, right? Maybe third cousins. I don't know. They're pretty much married, so they have to be third cousins or something like that, depending on what state you live in. But they're very similar, and I have the same thing. And here's the secret. Someone who has OCD is always going to find something to obsess about. Always. They're always going to find something to obsess. If it wasn't the ex, it'd be your drinking. If it wasn't the drinking, it'd be your kids. If it wasn't the kids, it'd be your mom. If it wasn't that, it'd be your job. I guarantee, look back through your life. It probably got worse as you drank, but look back through your life. It's probably always been there. It's probably always been there. And so now that we know that, we can sit back and I could be like, just ruminating about my, whatever. That's cool. That's what my mind's doing. And you watch it like up here. And you're like, there's my mind. My mind's in the waves. It's doing its thing. That's cool. I know, hey, in a half hour, I got to go to work or I got to do this or whatever. And we're going to be on land. That's what's going to happen. So you buckle in for the ride. And you're like, sometimes they're going to have flare-ups, right? And I look at my anxiety and my OCD. And sometimes I have flare-ups. If I have a cup of coffee, OCD's off the chart. Off the chart. Anxiety, off the chart. Sometimes if I don't sleep good, off the chart anxiety, off the chart OCD. But I've learned being sober that I don't have to take my OCD seriously. The prayer. Accept the things I've done. That's a good one. Let me accept the things I've done. What I did is what I did. It's in a package. It's done. That's what it is. Okay? Best I can do with that other person is ask cooperation. But right now, that's in a package. It's done. I can't change it. I'm going to accept it. This is where I'm at. I don't know where I'll be in 6 months, a year, 10 years. But right now, this is where I'm at. Obsessing is not going to bring someone back. It's not going to right the wrongs you did. I'll tell you what will, though. Being the person that you know you're supposed to be. The person you're born to be. Where you're like, hey, this is who I'm going to be despite what everyone else says. I'm going to be who I want to be. Like for me, one of the things that I really kind of probably narcissistically like about myself is I like to think that I'm very caring. And I like to think that I'm very generous. And, you know, some people tell me, Marcus, you're going to get walked all over. You're going to get walked all over. And I'm like, before I would get mad about it, but now sometimes I don't care. Now sometimes I'm like, well, I like that part of myself. And, you know, if someone wants to walk over me, then that's fine. I'm not going to let it, like, go crazy, right? I'm not going to let them, like, move in. But we got to look at it and say, well, I like that part of me. I want to keep that part. And somewhere along the way, we have these parts of ourselves that are really cool. And along the way, society tells us, well, you need to do this. You need to do that. You got to be this way. You got to stand this way. You got to think this way. And along the way, we get changed. And I think what happens is we got to look at it and say, well, I'm going to go back to who I was. And I look at sobriety as giving me the gift of being the person I was when I was like 8. When I was 8 years old, I loved everyone. I cared about everyone. I wanted everyone to have fun. I didn't really care if it was like at my expense because I was like, I want everyone to have fun. And I like that I got that part of myself back. And I like that I got a lot of me back, you know, and that's what's going to make you able to live in the world the way that feels good for you, the way that's comfortable for you. Does that make sense to everyone? I think it does. Millennium Hippie says, or wait, I think, okay, we got Megan's. Millennium says, the root of all my problems come directly from alcohol. Welcome to the club, buddy. Don't want this pain ever again. Keep it fresh in my head. Yes. Okay. Yeah, Megan, the key to stop thinking about it is to watch your thoughts not be in them. Watch your thoughts don't be in them, right? We take our thoughts seriously as if it's like this thing in our head just like forcing us to do something. But we could literally step above them and say, well, my mind's just thinking about it. That's cool. Whatever. Like I know when I get anxious, just being anxious, it's the way it is, some chemical reaction. Just thinking about thoughts. And what's going to happen is they're going to start to go away. You're going to start to condition your brain that, hey, these don't do anything for me anymore, so I don't need to think about it. I used to obsess about certain things, and I still do to a certain extent, but I would obsess about them, and then I was like, whatever, there I am just obsessing. And then my mind finally just started shutting up. It's like, whatever, you know, there you go. Okay, okay, Sherry, glad you liked the videos on the cravings. Leslie, good to see you here. Let's see. Okay, just started drinking hard at an early age. It became a lifestyle. That's pretty common. Baby Jinx says, I'm an addict in general. You don't have to be. Are we still live? I think we are. You don't have to be an addict in general. Drugs and alcohol consumed me. Yeah, me too. I always knew I was an alcoholic because it cured my social anxiety, but I didn't think I could deal with it any other way, so I kept on drinking. Megan, I'll tell you, I didn't think there was another way to deal with it, but there's a way better way. And it's by sitting with it and learning about it. Right? Just sit with me. There it is. There, I'm being anxious. I probably had coffee or whatever. It's kind of like on the Christmas movie. What is it? The Christmas... like the famous one that's been redone over and over, where the Bob Cratchit guy, I think it was, or whoever it is, Scrooge is there, and he's like, I'm seeing things. It's probably like undigested food. And that's a lot of times what we have, where it's like, hey, we got this, and we're like, I'm anxious. I probably had too much coffee. I feel this way. Probably had this. I can't stop thinking about this person. Maybe you like them. Or don't like them, either one, right? And we look at it and we're like, I don't need to be a prisoner of my thoughts anymore. They don't own me. They do not own you. Your thoughts are what they are. They're going to be what they are, and you just live with them. You're like, okay, which ones do I want to take? So instead of being like all the Bible-y people say, take your thoughts captive, I'm like, I just watch my thoughts go by, and I'm like, do I want to deal with that one? Nah. What about that one? No. How about that one? Yeah, that's kind of cool. Let's go with that. Right, and we got to look at that and really focus on it. Okay, my past has no place in my present or future. Alcohol was in every aspect of my past, so it's important to change people, places, and things. True. Okay. Day 2. Congrats on day 2. Keep going. Anxiety. Yeah, day 2 is an anxious day. Not fun. Okay, Baby Jinx says, even at work I have trouble concentrating because I'm thinking about my problems. Well, what you got to do is you got to really look at what they're doing. What are they doing? Right? I go through. I'm like, here's my life. What am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with these thoughts? Are they doing anything for me? Like, is there a magic number? Like, tell me, if you got this thought, I'm thinking about my mother-in-law. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. Okay? How many times do you need to think about it for it to be enough? And how many times? Probably thought about it 10,000 times in your life, right? How many times is enough? How many times do you think it's going to be before a bell goes off and says, I'm solved, right? Oftentimes we think that thinking about things or ruminating on them are a way of paying the price to get better, right? It's a deep thing. It's like, if I think about this enough, I am therefore paying the price to be better. But you're not, because all it is a cycle. It's like sitting here on the boat trying to solve all the problems on the boat. You can't solve the problems on the boat. If the sail breaks and you're in waves, you can't solve the problem. You can't fix it because you're on the boat and you're being tossed around. You need to get above and say, hey, okay, yeah, it's fine. The sail's broken, whatever. We're going to be on land in 300 feet. You got to get above the problems. You got to get above your thoughts and start being the watcher instead of the thinker, because we never ask ourselves, who is it that thinks inside our head? Who is it that puts these thoughts in our head? Why do I have these thoughts in the first place? And these thoughts are not our own. The proof that they're not our own is the very fact that you think in language, most of us the English language, and that was not something you made up. I don't even have my own words to think. So all these thoughts are just happening. They're just happening. And I'm watching, and I'm like, okay, there's Marcus. He's thinking about shit to say on his webinar today. All right, he's tired. Like, I had a bunch of calls. I am, like, exhausted, and I got to do a live training in a couple of days. First live training I've ever done since I've been sober, so it's going to be kind of a little worried about it. But I'm not worried about drinking. I'm just worried about, like, what if I get anxious? But I know I'll be okay, because if I get anxious, that's just Marcus being anxious. Big deal. Step outside, get away, have a cigar every couple hours or whatever it is. And we look at it and we start to watch these things rather than being in them. And we got to ask ourselves, how many times do I need to think about this? When you start thinking about it, say, is this helpful? Is this going to, am I going to sit here in the next 2 hours and solve the problems? Like for me, I like to think about political stuff. And I love to think about, I think deep about this stuff, finances and political. But never once in my thousands of hours of thinking have I solved one fraction of a government problem or anything like that, a political problem. Never. So I spent all these hours and I didn't do anything. Now, I enjoyed it because I like thinking about it. It's like a puzzle for the brain, but it never solved anything. How many times thinking about these things have they actually solved anything? I'm sure before you got sober, you thought about drinking all the time. Or thought about quitting all the time. You're like, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. Here's how I'm going to quit. I got the solution. Didn't really work till you actually got sober. Didn't work, right? Okay. Let's see what else we got. Most of my relapse could have been prevented if I knew how to control my emotions. And the key is sometimes you can't control your emotions. Sometimes you just feel the way you feel. And that's okay. It's okay to be sad some days. Some days it's like, it's okay to be sad. It's not going to kill you. Some days it's okay to be a little angry. Like the Bible verse says, be angry, but sin not. Right? Be angry, but don't go beating the shit out of people. You can be angry, that's cool, but don't go harming people. Right? Be angry, that's fine. Sometimes you'll be happy, and that's cool. We don't need to control our emotions. That's the problem. The problem is we're trying to control a life that we cannot control. Let me say that again. We're trying to control a life that we cannot control. This is the biggest thing. I remember years ago, and for me, I'm little Marcus, and I never saw myself as a control freak. And one time I was in a counseling meeting, and this lady's like, Marcus, you're a control freak. And I'm like, no. You need to meet other people. They're control freaks. Not me. These other people, they're control freaks. I am not. I'm the victim here. Right? That's how I thought back then. And she pointed out that not all control freaks are like maniacs that tell people what to do. Right? And so I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I am a control freak. Everything has to be my way. I'm controlling things so that I don't get my anxiety, or I don't feel this, or I don't feel that. And so I have all these things going on. And so we got to look at that. And we can't control our emotions sometimes. Sometimes you're just going to be emotive. Sometimes you're going to have those emotions. And I think, is our stream still going? I got a spirally thing, so I want to make sure. How important is doing the steps? I myself have never done the steps, but to a lot of people, they're very important. So if they're important to you, definitely use them. I know Terry loves the steps. So cool. Okay, let's see what else we have. Okay. How can you exercise if you feel like shit? Start small. Start small. Do a little safe exercise, right? Jog in place. Do a couple push-ups. Something, you know. You don't have to do something crazy. Just start something. That's the problem in life, is people think we need to make a major change when we just need to start something simple. Maybe it's as simple as I don't drink alcohol anymore. That's a simple change that changed my life. Just, I don't drink alcohol anymore. That's it. Done. End of story. What about relapse? I don't drink alcohol anymore. I can't relapse if I don't drink alcohol anymore. Right? Be matter of fact and say, I don't drink alcohol anymore. Very, very cool. Okay. Recipher says, wow, you put into words what I never could. Awesome. Glad it helps. Great topic. I ruminate a lot. I try to remember not who I am, that my thoughts are not who I am, and then I realize that my thoughts are just a thought and a thought in itself. Exactly. It's a bunch of thoughts thinking about thoughts. Very simple. Thoughts thinking about thoughts, right? That's all it is. It's thinkers thinking about thinking. My daily mantra, Sherry says, my daily mantra now is, if you can destroy yourself, you can rebuild yourself. I'm trying to find and reclaim my warrior. Well, it's there. You just go get it. And sometimes the warrior's going to be tired, and sometimes the warrior's going to be beat up, and sometimes the warrior's going to feel like, rolling up on the couch. And that's okay. Doesn't mean they're not a warrior. It just means they're friggin' tired. It just means there's a lot going on, right? And we got to look at that and say, find my inner strength. My inner strength is, sometimes my inner strength is weakness. Think about that for a minute. Sometimes my inner strength is vulnerability. Sometimes my inner strength is saying, I don't know. I used to think that my inner strength was having all the answers. I got to know the answers. And now I'm like, guys, I don't know shit. I know like a little tiny bit of things, but in the grand scheme of things, like there's certain things you don't want to listen to me for, like saving money, terrible at it. Eating right, I can cook good, but I don't think I eat right. But we got to look at that and say, hey, you know what? Sometimes strength is found in weakness. Okay, let's see. Does neurolinguistic programming help you in changing thought process? Depends on who you listen to. Neurolinguistic programming is the idea that our brain is programmed by thoughts or by words, that our words affect our situation. I think there's a lot of good in NLP. I also think there's a lot of not so good if people are not in the right place. What I would do is I would focus on getting sober first and then say, okay, well, how can I change the thought? Because you got to look at it this way. NLP was invented in 1973 or something like that. And people have been changing their thoughts for years, right? So there were people like back in Bible times, and it was about change. Like even Jesus was like, hey, go change your mind. You want to renew your life? Change your mind. That's what he said. Be renewed by the changing of your thoughts. These are things he said thousands of years ago. So it's not like some new fad is going to put some crazy spin on it. Like right now, NLP was a fad, which is good. There's good stuff in it. Right now, there's a lot of people looking to gurus and spiritual coaches. Guys, spiritual coaches have been around for tens of thousands of years, like forever. All right, the difference is now it's being brought to the West, which started in the 20s, if you really look at it, being brought to the West in the 20s. But if we look at it, it's like, what's the essence of what they're saying? Well, the essence of what has helped me the most is looking at it and saying, I don't know, and I'll be okay. I don't know, and I'll be okay. Those are good. You look at them, you're like, I don't know. I'll be okay, though. What are you going to do about your mom? When your thought comes up, what are you going to do about your mom? I don't know, but I'm going to be okay right now. I don't need to solve everything. I don't need to have all the answers right now. I don't need to solve my year-long drinking or 10-year-long drinking or whatever. I don't need to stay sober the rest of my life today. I just need to stay sober today, and I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I'm going to be okay. All right. Let's see here. Sarah says, love your videos. Thanks so much. Thank you. I drank or used when it just wouldn't stop replaying my past. Well, look at this, because your mind, and this is for the NLP guy, you'll like this. Your mind thinks in images and movies, right? So I want you to imagine, actually, I want you to recall the thoughts. Okay, so I want you to put yourself in a state. Okay, so right now, put yourself in a state, and I want you to see that thought on the movie screen. And I guarantee it's probably not a little dinky, like, flip phone movie screen. This is probably huge, larger than life. My past was this, right? And it's huge, right? And when you guys see it, tell me. Say, yeah, it's big. I see this huge movie, and it's replaying these thoughts. It's replaying this stuff, this trauma, over and over again, okay? And you see that. Now, the funny thing about it is you have the power to change the way that you think and feel about things. And I'm also going to challenge you that oftentimes the movie that we play in our mind is not the movie that actually happened. Now, I'm not saying this to diminish anything that happened to people, trauma issues, totally validated. What I'm saying is your movie changes over time. Your movie changes over time. It's like when I used to be a magician, I would do this magic trick. And I'd do a magic trick where I would take someone's hand and I'd throw an English penny, which is like, it's like a big copper $50. And I'd throw the English penny in their hand and they'd turn it over. And then I'd say, open your hand. And without even touching their hand, they'd open it and it would be a silver $50. And they would go, what the? They would flip out. They'd say, how did this work? And what happened was their mind actually deleted what really happened, because there was another step in there. I won't tell you this step because it gives away the trick. But there was another step in there that everyone's mind deleted. Why? Because it didn't think it was important. There's things your mind adds. There's things your mind deletes. There's things your mind distorts. And you're looking at this as gospel truth of ruminating and seeing this. And it's on the big movie screen. And we can actually take that movie screen and we could shrink it down and we could look at it differently. And the very fact that you're doing this exercise now, if you actually pictured it, is actually changing the way you think, because now you're looking at it saying, wait a minute, I just made myself start to ruminate, because everything you do has a process. I guarantee you sit there and you're like, wonder how mom's doing. Well, shit. Remember that time mom did this? Oh, man, she's bad. Yeah, she's a narcissist. Yeah, I'm going to go on Google. I'm going to look up narcissist. She's got 10 of them. Look at that. Look at that. She's probably a sociopath, too. Let's go Google that. Oh, yeah, she's a sociopath. I'll bet her personality. Oh, wow, she's bad. And you're looking at these things, and you're ruminating, and you have a process. And I know you guys do that because I do that stuff, too, right? Well, I hope you do. I might be alone there. I don't know. But we look at that, and we're like, I have a process. So start to interrupt your process. Think of something you can do to interrupt your process. If you're like, every day around 3 o'clock, I ruminate on this, then every day at 3 o'clock, go for a jog, or go to lunch, or coffee, or go to a meeting, or whatever it is, and then you won't ruminate. It's like, take all the chances away to ruminate. It's just like drinking. You want to take the drinking away? Get out all the drinking, right? So get out all the stuff that's going to make you think about that and start to get well. And I hope that helps. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, MM says, best topic ever. I hope I'm doing it justice. It's just me today, so I might not be. You guys be the judge and give me like a 1 to 10 rating or a thumbs up or something. Okay, I'm back waiting for x-ray. Okay, hope your foot gets better. Okay, Ivy says, my life is crumbling down. Well, your life doesn't really crumble down. I mean, certain aspects. Usually what we're talking about is social aspects. My money, my social standing, my alcohol. Now, sometimes you have health and stuff, but usually you can get through things. Okay, Katie says, Marcus, I'm a ruminator over someone that hurt me badly. How do I stop myself from wanting revenge? Well, here's what you got to do. If someone hurt you badly, you have to look at it, and you have to say, they would have hurt someone else badly too. Okay, so you got to take it off of you, because we look at it, and I look at it in my past. I had someone who hurt me, and I look at it, and I'm like, you know what? If there was another kid there, they would have done the same thing to that kid. That person's a dick. It has nothing to do with me. That person hurts people. It has nothing to do with me. So the first step is remove yourself, because sometimes as victims or people who have gone through bad things, we tend to be, well, maybe I asked for it. Maybe I deserve it. Maybe I wasn't good enough, right? And maybe we try to look at it and say, oh, well, maybe it was good. No. Bullshit. That guy's a dick. I don't care how bad you are. People shouldn't hurt you. People shouldn't do that. That's not what they're supposed to do, right? It's not a good person who does that. Step away. So the first thing is look at it and say, no matter what, whoever was in that guy's path would have gotten hurt. Okay, has nothing to do with me. It's not personal. Good, that's step one. Step two is to accept it and say, this is just what happened. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you're damaged. Doesn't mean you're less than. Doesn't mean you're not worthwhile. Doesn't mean anything. It just means bad guy, did bad things, hurt my feelings. We can accept that. I can accept that. All the other stuff is just things we're putting on top. Okay, so get to the basics. Bad guy did bad things. He would have done bad things to anyone. I just happened to be in his path, right? It's like if you're on the freeway and a dude's driving drunk and he crashes into your car, wrong place, wrong time. The guy wasn't like, motherfucker, that guy's sober. I'm going to go, yeah. He's not doing that. He's just driving drunk. He has no idea what's going on, right? And we look at it and we're like, why am I sitting here laughing at myself? I don't know, whatever. But we look at it and sometimes we're like, well, maybe it's my fault. But no, it's not. It just is what it is, and we accept it. There's a good book and there's a good review I did on this channel of that book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. It talks about how our body stores emotions and how they come up sometimes. But I think that will be the first part to healing is, hey, you know what? What would have happened to anyone? Like that guy does that stuff. Like, that's normal. That's what he does. I was there. Has nothing to do with me. So now I'm detached. Now I'm a person who's like, yeah, I got hurt, and I can accept that. That is bad. And sometimes I might think about it. Like, that's normal. But if that person's out of your life now, you don't need to constantly be on guard anymore. You can say to your mind and your thoughts, I don't have to be on guard anymore. I'm safe. I'm okay now. Right? That guy's not in my life anymore. I'm okay. They hurt me bad. They would have hurt anyone. And it had nothing to do with me. But it did hurt me, and I'm okay now. Right? Does that make sense? I hope that helps. It helped me when I dealt with this stuff. And I know everything's different, too. Okay, Jimmy says, what if the trauma is both ways, where you've been both the receiver of trauma and the giver? Well, where you're the receiver, I just gave you that. If you're the giver, man up to your shit and go deal with what you did. Right? If you were an ass to people, go be like, hey, I was an ass. I'm sorry. And if they say, F you, I don't accept your apology, that's fine. That's cool. The best you could do in life is ask someone else's cooperation. That's it. And then you make a decision. You say, that guy said no. He doesn't want my apology. Great. Well, I gave it. That's fine. That's it. Does it make it right what you did? Hell no. Doesn't make it right. But if you want to feel better about this, be different. Okay, so take what you were. If you gave bad experiences, or you were mean, or you were a bully, be the complete opposite. Go help people who are bullied. Right? You want to be the change that you should have been all along. That's the best way to patch that up. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm feeling lectury today. So, all right. Any other questions? I could go for another 20 minutes or so, then I got to hop off. But if you guys do have questions, let me know. All right, cool. Peter says, I've been watching your stuff for a few years. Awesome. And I feel your ability to live in the now is getting stronger. I hope so. Some days it's good, some days it sucks. But yeah. All right, Linda, glad you made it. Sarah says, how do you deal with living with an alcoholic parent if you're trying to quit drinking? That's a tough one. Maybe get help together if they're open for it. Maybe ask cooperation of, can we not have alcohol in the house? And then if you can't stay sober because of that, move. Okay. And that's the thing, is nothing's more important than our sobriety. Like, that's the most important thing. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. All right, guys, we'll take a couple other questions or comments. How you guys feeling about this topic today? How'd I do? You guys getting good value out of this? Hope so. Type it in the box. Let me know. I think this is the first time I've ever done a live stream for this channel without a co-host. All right, cool. Doesn't look like too many questions. Okay, my questions are coming up late. All right, Sarah, thanks for that. And yeah, really, like, taking care of yourself is first priority. That's it. Like, I don't care what anyone else is doing. You got to take care, even kids. You got to take care of yourself first, because if you're an alcoholic and you don't get help, your kids are going to suffer. And that sucks. So get help. It's like the airplane thing. They tell the parents to put the mask on themselves first instead of the kids, because they know if they put it on first, they'll be getting oxygen while they're running around getting all the kids, and, you know, little Jimmy's going to be swinging on the thing, and you're like, sit down, damn it. You know, so they tell you to put it on first. Same thing with sobriety. Put your sobriety on first, then deal with whatever else you got. All right, any last-minute burning questions, desires, comments, let us know. Okay, Megan says, I'm curious, how long did you keep track of your sober days? The first year it was pretty easy. I wasn't like 275, but I'd be like 9 months or whatever. And then I remember at 3 years, I was like, cool, I've been sober like 1,000 days. But I didn't actually calculate them. So not a whole lot. Like in the beginning, probably the first 6 months, I was like 90 days, 95 days. But then it just kind of fell off. Now, I know some people who are like 10 years, 5 months, and 14 hours. It's like, oh, okay, cool, awesome. Which is cool. I mean, it's to each his own. I'm a numbers guy, so probably not the greatest thing for me to think about all the time is days, and I'll try to calculate everything down. So, but yeah, I mean, if it helps for you, go for it. I like seeing yours, Megan. I like when you come on and you're like 65 days. I'm like, that's awesome. So maybe if you like keep them so that we know. That's cool. We had one lady who she did like every week she'd come on with the day she was sober for like a year, and we watched her go from like day 5, and then she's like day 410, and I'm like, that's awesome. It's cool. You can go from an alcoholic to an alcoholic. Okay, yeah, a healing alcoholic. Yeah, healing does come, but you need to allow yourself to do it. It's not going to come when you're drinking, because it just keeps you ruminating on it, which is crazy. Okay, Ivy says, I've had to let go of my old friends. It's hard. One part of me says go with them and see what happens. One part says stay away from them and jump out while you can. Well, I mean, take time. Like, you don't have to decide right now if you're never going to see your friends again for the rest of your life. You just decide right now, it's not the best thing for me. I need to stay sober. Then after a year, like it's called the 4 seasons rule, do something for 4 seasons, see it through, and then reevaluate. People come, oh man, do I have to stop drinking the rest of my life? Well, I don't know. I mean, everyone's different. Start with a year. I found out that at the end of the year, I didn't want to drink anymore. I was like, last year was pretty cool. I think I like that. It's better than like wallowing around and waking up drunk. So same thing with your friends. You don't have to decide everything right now. All right, cool. Millennium says August 17th is sobriety date. Cool. I know mine because it was the last day of the kids' school. Yeah, it's like real fun to be like, hey, Dad's going away for a month. So was not fun. That was a sarcasm. All right, cool. So I think we'll wrap up for the day. If you guys do want to support the channel, we are self-funded. I fund this with another business of mine. But if you do want to help out, support, we have lots of tools and things for you guys, MP3s, PDFs and everything. All you got to do is go to talksober.com, click on the support the channel button. You can cancel whenever you want. Very easy. Just kind of helps us out here. Trying to turn it into a business. I know Terry wants to do this full time. So that's kind of a goal we're working at so that we can have someone that's here to help everyone, which is cool. Make more videos and everything like that. So talksober.com. Make sure you subscribe, get the letters, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks again for joining.